Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our National Ice Cream Retailers Association's webinar. Grateful to have a rep from the Small Business Administration. Just waiting for a few more people to jump on here. Would you mind, if you can hear me okay, just someone jump into the chat or raise a hand and let us know that you can hear us okay. Fabulous. A lot of hands raised. Keep that hand raising process at the ready, because we've got some great information here. Mark Lawrence, good to see you. Sue, nice to see you. Dave, nice cameo on the NICRA video, Dave. Very well produced, as it will only be expected from you. This will be video and audio. So you can call in on your phone or you can see the screen. Not a lot of information on the screen. Tom from the SBA is going to be spending a lot of time talking about the packages and also looking at what is useful for our members and for small businesses all around the country. So we appreciate his time. Just by way of announcement and general information, everyone should be muted, but if you could just make sure that your phone is muted as we go through the webinar. In the process of asking questions, there's two ways you can do that. You can raise a hand and we can unmute you and you can physically or verbally ask a question, or you can type something into the Q&A box or the question box, and we'll bring them up at the Q&A mark, which would be fantastic. We plan to go for about 60 minutes, but in speaking with Tom prior to the call, he said as long as we don't go to midnight, we should be okay. I think that was a slight exaggeration, but our goal is to get you as much information as we can right now. And again, the recording will be available, both the video and the audio will be available on the NICRA website. So we'll make sure that that is up and running for you. We do have some members, and again, we do a lot of webinars just for National Ice Cream Retailer Association members. We've opened this particular webinar up to as many people as we can in the ice cream and frozen dessert community. So we may have people here that have never heard of NICRA before, or perhaps have not aware of what we do. Basically, we're an 86-year-old association founded in 1933. We have over 600 retailers, wholesalers, supply members of the association, and we're really in a growth phase here. We've had 44% increase growth in membership just last year, and we're adding a lot of member benefits, but primarily it's a great opportunity to network with those already in the trenches, and I think that's what makes the association so valuable. We do pretty well a weekly podcast, interviewing members and suppliers and people in the industry. We have a pretty robust members-only Facebook group, which is extremely valuable, and other benefits like free video-based procedural food safety training. We obviously have an annual trade show and convention that's in November, which hopefully will continue on, where we give out $20,000 in scholarships. So if you are a member of our association and have a college-aged employee, they can be eligible for a scholarship. We love the scholarship program and much, much more. Now, the executive committee and the membership committee got together in the past week or so. And if you are not a member of the NICRA organization, we are announcing today for the month of April a free 3-month NICRA membership. We really want to make the benefits and the association, the networking available to as many people as we can during this troubled time. So if you are not a member of NICRA, you can go to the NICRA page and sign up for a 3-month free membership. We are also extending that onto our current members. So whatever your membership due date is, whether it's this month, next month, or at the end of the year, we are adding 3 months onto that to kind of help in this time of financial abnormality, if you will. For more information on both of those packages, you can go to nicra.org, and hopefully we can allow as many of retailers and wholesalers and industry people. I'm your assistant 24/7. Oh, look, my Apple Watch keeps talking to me. As much as we can, so that we can get through this together, which would be fabulous. How to activate that free membership. This is the NICRA homepage. You'll simply see up in the top corner here a register button. When you click on that register button, it'll bring up a member type, and you'll see down the bottom here a 3-month free membership. So again, we'll touch on this at the end of the webinar if you're coming in late. Excuse me, but if you are not a member of the association, we'd love to have you join for 3 months. I think it'll be extremely valuable in helping your business get through these troubled times. So today's meeting, as in all of our meetings, podcasts, webinars, we really want to share some up-to-date industry information and recommendations for you as someone who is in the ice cream or frozen dessert industry or who's looking to get into that industry. And the goal today is to take away some valuable information to help you, and particularly financially, during this time. And I noticed on our Facebook page and a lot of the different forums that that we participate in, that there's just so much information flooding the airwaves on COVID-19 relief packages, what the SBA is doing, recommendations, how to do it, where to get it from. And in talking to Tom and the SBA office leading up to this call, this is obviously a very, very fluid situation. So it's taken a little bit of time for us to be able to put this together, but we very much appreciate Tom taking some time. Tom Yoakum is the Deputy District Director of the St. Louis District Office of the Small Business Administration, NICRA, based here in St. Louis. So it's great to have him on, and we shall pass the time over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. First of all, thanks for having us, and we're quite busy. We're in the midst of the largest economic recovery in the history of the United States. So I don't know if anybody heard that or not yesterday, but we've done since Friday when this all rolled out, we've done over 400,000 loans and processed over $100 billion in relief. So everybody's been quite busy. Like Steve said, I am in the St. Louis District Office. So my guess is a lot of you may not be in St. Louis. In this case, that doesn't matter. Normally, normally this is rolled out on a per district office or per zonal area. Because this has affected the entire country, what I'm going to tell you is it goes across the board for everybody. So that's good news. If you have any questions that I don't have the answers to, Steve, I don't know if that would be possible to maybe keep a list of questions that we need to get answers to, and I'd be happy to get answers to anything that we don't have answers to. I can get them all to you, and you can roll them out to your whole membership if that works.
Yep, we'll publish an email address at the end of the webinar that if anyone has any questions that we haven't had a chance to or can't, they can send it in to us and we'll liaise directly with you.
That's great. And I don't want to shy away from that. I mean, everyone is more than happy to email me or call me directly. But it certainly would save us a lot of time if we could have one focal point and roll it out to the masses as much as we possibly can. So appreciate that. So anyway, so we have a couple different programs that we are kind of working through right now, and I'll tell you about everything we have, and feel free to ask questions. So the first thing we have that came out is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, abbreviated for short as EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So that is for self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors and businesses, cooperatives, 501c3 nonprofits with 500 or fewer employees. That is actually a loan, and I'm going to make a big distinguishing between a loan and a grant. Everything that we're going to talk about is actually considered a loan. However, pieces of this can be forgiven where you would not pay it back, and that's where people are calling a grant. So just so we can distinguish between the two. This EIDL is a loan, and it is with the Small Business Administration direct. You actually would apply for that loan online at https://covid19relief.sba.gov/the # I apologize for how long that is. You can also get to it just by going to the SBA website at sba.gov. And you'll have to look around a little bit, but it's under our funding programs and loans. So that loan is a 30-year loan at 3.75% for businesses and 2.75% for nonprofits. And it's your first payment is deferred for 12 months. You do not have to have any collateral up to $25,000. After that, you would need collateral. And there actually would be, so when you apply for this, I'll just kind of go through that real quick. When you apply for it, you're going to go through a streamlined application that's online where I told you. And at the end of it, you're going to get a confirmation, you're going to submit it and get a confirmation number. After that, there's going to be a question is, would you like an advance on that loan? And that is actually the next part of what we're going to talk about is this EIDL advance. But before I get to the advance, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. The loan availability period, but no fees on any of this. The loan availability period on the EIDL loan is January 31st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. You have to apply in that time period. The usage on an EIDL loan is to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that can't be paid because of the disaster's impact. It does not cover lost sales. And the prohibitions is it cannot be used to pay off existing debt. So you could not take this and refinance an existing loan with it for the lower interest rate. I'll get to the loan interaction on how it works with the other loans here in a minute. And in this case, it is okay for businesses to be less than a year old to apply. Loans can be made solely on credit scores, but I'm also told that I don't have a credit score number that I can give you because with everything going on, they're actually trying to reduce the credit score that they would work with to try and get money in everybody's hands. So that is the economic injury disaster loan. Now, a couple minutes ago, I mentioned the advance part on this EIDL loan. So the advance, when the CARES Act was signed off on April 3rd, they added a piece to that for this EIDL advance. The EIDL advance also is for all the same people, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors, 501c3s, and that. The advance is up to $10,000. And the big part of this is it is forgiven. How much do you get? Every business is different. It says the amount could be dependent upon the number of employees, but we're actually waiting for confirmation on that. I've heard different stories on that. And I will apologize up front for anything that I'm telling you. It as crazy as this sounds, they're changing things as we speak. So there's things that are better than what I'm telling you now. So I don't have an exact amount that you would be given based on the size of your business or the employees. All I know is it's up to $10,000. When can you get this? You can get the $10,000 or up to $10,000 advance 3 business days that after your application is accepted. So not once it's approved, once it's accepted. So just because you would receive an advance does not mean that your loan was approved or declined. So here's where it starts to get intertwined with more so into the Paycheck Protection Program that we're going to talk about next. You do not pay back the advance. So that is, I told you earlier that this is a loan. This part of an economic injury disaster loan is automatically forgiven. So if you apply for this loan, you get the advance. So for example, if you get a $50,000 loan and you get a $10,000 advance, you only pay back $40,000. The $10,000 is automatically forgiven once you get it. Usage is providing paid sick leave to employees, maintaining payroll, meeting increased cost to obtain materials, making rent, mortgage payments, utilities, etc. If anybody, so this is a good point. If anybody has applied for this prior to March 29th, so if you applied for this when it first came out, you went through a very laborious process with this application. That first week was extremely difficult because we had such an overwhelming response that the system was very bogged down. It crashed for an entire day. They reformatted and redid the application and streamlined it for that following weekend. So if you applied for the EIDL loan prior to March 29th, you would have to reapply for the advance. Just so everybody's aware of that. And you would get a confirmation number. If you applied for this and did not get a confirmation number, you absolutely need to reapply and make sure you get a confirmation number. So that is the economic injury disaster loan. Now we're going to talk about specifically the CARES Act with the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And so if anybody's familiar with Small Business Administration loan programs, we have what they call a 7A loan program. So this is based on a 7A loan that you may have seen or read about. So this is for self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors, businesses, 501c3, nonprofits, just about any small business. Businesses in certain industries can have more than 500 employees if they meet the applicable SBA size standards for those industries. Affiliation standards are waived for small businesses in the hotel and food service industries, or the franchises in the SBA's franchise directory. So I'm not going to guarantee that everybody fits in one of those categories, but the majority of everybody fits in those categories. How to apply for this? So this loan is actually through your lending institution, and we can talk about where to go for your lenders and that kind of thing, or where to get a lender. If you're not all banks are doing this, so you need to make sure that whatever bank you're using can work through the system, because they actually have to be an SBA certified lender. They had to apply to be one of our lenders and get into our systems, because since all the money is rolling through the Small Business Administration, it's going through, they got to go through our forms and our computer systems in order to get you the loan. Like I said, you apply with an SBA certified lender. The term on the loan is 2 years, has to be paid back in 2 years or less. It's 250% of your average monthly payroll. That's average from the, sorry about that. My apologies, working from home. 250% of average monthly payroll from the last year's rolling average. It's capped at $100,000 per employee and up to a maximum of $10 million. Interest rate is 1%, and there is no collateral. Any personal guarantee is waived, and your payment is deferred for 6 months, but interest will accrue over that time period. Turnaround time is approximately 2 weeks. We were told yesterday it was 10 days from the time that you get your application in, and the bank processes your application. It should be about 10 days before you would get funds disbursement. Forgiveness or grant, or call it what you would like to call it. This is the same deal as before with the EIDL advance. So it's up to 100% of your loan can be, as long as up to 100% can be forgiven by the borrowed during the 8-week period after the origination date of the loan, as long as it's used for payroll cost. 75%, let's see, it's 75% of your loan has to be used for payroll costs, and then up to 100% of the loan can be forgiven. So if you paid all your you brought all your employees back to work and use 75% or more of the money for payroll, that part would be forgiven. And you can also use it for its payroll costs, interest payment on any mortgage incurred prior to February 15th, payment on any rent, and payment on any utility service which began before February 15th. So same deal, employee and compensation levels must be maintained, and payroll cost is capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. So I know that's a lot to swallow, so we can, if there's any questions on that, we can kind of talk about that after we're done here. So this is the one interesting twist at the combination of the economic injury disaster loan advance. So for anybody that might have applied for or have received the EIDL loan advance of up to $10,000, whatever amount that you got from the advance is going to be deducted from your Paycheck Protection Program loan, otherwise referred to as PPP for short. So if you get a PPP loan and you got an economic injury disaster loan advance, they're going to deduct whatever that was from your loan. Why? Because you can use them for the exact same things. And if you got both, you would be getting twice as much for one thing. Let's see, loan availability period, February 15th of 2020 through June 30th of 2020. Right now, that is the latest date that you could apply for this, is on June 30th of 2020. You can use this for salaries, benefits, including paid sick leave or medical leave and insurance premiums, mortgage interest, rent, and utility payments in place before February 15th. Prohibitions, the borrower cannot have a pending application for an EIDL or 7A loan for the same purpose. So that means you can have both the economic injury disaster loan and a paycheck protection program loan, but as long as you have to use them for different things. You cannot use them for the same things, otherwise you can only have the one. Let's see, I talked about the loan interaction where they're going to deduct the advance amount of EIDL from the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And then, let's see, I think that is, yes, I think we covered all that. So the last piece we have here is if any of you have a Small Business Administration 7A loan, if you currently have it, you not one that you would apply for now, if you currently have it, they are, as part of the debt relief program, they are waiving, they're going to pay your loan payments, principal, interest, and fees. They'll cover the loan payments on these 7A loans to include principal, interest, and fees for 6 months. So if you currently have one that you've been making payments on, they automatically stop those and they're going to make the payments for you for 6 months on those loans. And that goes for any loan that, so someone that may have had, like they were just getting ready to start a 7A loan, this is for loans that come out through September 27th of 2020. And that is all the information that we got for the different loan programs that we have right now. So Steve sent me a few questions that I have answers for. I think I explained, the one question was the PPP loan, Paycheck Protection Program loan, versus the economic injury disaster loan. That's pretty much what we just talked about, so I think we have that covered. Seasonal wages. You can, so your wages for payroll are on a 12-month rolling average. So for people that are seasonal, that we understand that you need to talk to your bank and you should be able to use the seasonal months to kind of help boost those numbers up. So we do understand that. You need to talk to your bank and explain that, and then they should be able to work with you on putting in the seasonal numbers. And the other question, I think, was on an E2, someone with an E2 visa, I assume, is the owner. And the answer, I don't have I don't have an answer for that right now. We're waiting to hear. Our understanding is you have to be a U.S. resident. So if you're on a work visa, I don't know that would qualify. We'll have to ask that question and get a more specific, clarified answer on that.
I think, Tom, that that submission, they're saying that the form was actually modified to include that particular E2 status. So I think that may have been sorted. But
you should be in good shape then. Good,
yeah,
good.
Yeah. And that kind of throws to the fluidity of what we're talking about, is that a question that was asked 2 days ago has now been rectified. So
exactly. And so for humor's sake, just to kind of explain that, in literally like a 24-hour time period, we were told that these banks were supposed to make loans. First, it was within 5 days, then it was within 5 business days, and then it was within 10 days. So I'm telling you what I know at the moment, and you're absolutely right. It's very liquid and fluid. It's changing by the minute. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, I did want to just ask that last question here. This came from Over the Top in Iowa. So when calculating wages and salaries for a seasonal independently owned store, when the owner's salary is in the form of a draw or distribution and not necessarily wages, what documentation should be given to the banks to prove that amount?
So that's a good question. And we've already asked that question and we don't have an answer yet. And I should have actually thrown that date in there. This all started last Friday, April 3rd. All business, it was not open to all businesses at that point. So you're talking about, the business owner, sole proprietor, those applications can start tomorrow. And that is a specific question that we've asked that we do not have an answer to. So I'll get an answer back to you on that.
Okay, that'd be good. Let's go through some of these questions. A lot of them have to do with payout times and timeframes. So Becky asked, I haven't applied for PPP yet. Is it too late?
It is absolutely not too late. You should absolutely apply. They did, I can tell you, they did. So, and by the way, this is a combination program between Department of Treasury and the Small Business Administration. So we're kind of working hand in hand. They have provided $350 billion for relief to small businesses. We've accounted for or provided so far $100 billion, as I mentioned in the beginning. So $250 billion are still out there. The Treasury has already recognized that they think they might be short. So they're asking for an additional, I think the last number I heard, don't quote me on this, was 250 billion more. But who knows what that number will be? Your guess is as good as mine. Right. But it's absolutely not too late, and you absolutely should apply.
And a lot of questions here on the actual time frame for approvals and funding. And I apologize if you covered this before, because there was a myriad of information. I've been writing madly myself. So typically, what's the time frame between when you're applying from a bank and the time between that approval and then the funding on top of that?
So a lot of that is going to depend on your bank and where you stand in line. I don't have a specific answer to that other than 10 days from the time that your application is processed is what we're told right now. And I might tell you too, we were kind of behind the 8 ball, and there was some verbal or verbiage wording details that had to be worked out. So the banks actually were not able to start processing when they were ready, because they were waiting on us to finalize some of the wording. But that's all been taken care of, so the banks can process as fast as they can get the applications in. And some of the things that might be one, everybody needs to understand that this is not anything remotely normal about anything we're doing here as far as a loan, if you will. So everybody is they've streamlined this so much that I'm not going to say it's an honor system. It's not that. There's definitely some checks and balances here, but the documentation that you normally have to provide, they're not asking for a lot of it. So one of our frequently asked questions on the lender side, this will give you an example of this. Providing an accurate calculation of payroll costs is the responsibility of the borrower. That's you. And the borrower must attest to the accuracy of those calculations. The lender, normally you'd be providing tons and tons of documentation on something like that. In this case, you're providing, an accurate calculation to the best of your ability, the borrower or the lender is going to do, a good faith review of what they can, and they're going to move on. So it's very, very quick. I don't want to say laid back. It's not laid back, but they're streamlining it to move it through as fast as they possibly can.
Nathan asked, we haven't opened a shop yet and we have no existing loan at this time because we're being delayed on the finalization of a location, doing construction with shelter in place. They're based in California. Is there any loan to help us in this situation with a new loan, or are loans primarily for relief of existing loans and businesses? So someone that's not actually up and running yet, although they've invested capital into getting it ready to run and are unable to either finish preparing their business or to actually open.
So if I just want to make sure I understand the question right. So you currently have a loan that, like a construction loan, that you've been under construction, and now you're kind of in a delay game status, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of members who this was their first season, so they've invested, whatever it would be, $120, $180, $200,000 to kind of invest in their business, capital expense wise, get it ready to launch. Last weekend, the weekend before, most of us are ice cream retailers here, and many who got to the start line never got to hear the crack of the gun, so to speak.
Yeah, because it's right at your season. I mean,
Right.
Your season starts now.
Right.
Yeah. Let me get some clarification on that. I don't have a good answer for that, but let me write a couple notes here just to make sure I got it. So this one's you got two different ones there that are kind of the same but kind of different. One's in the process of constructing that has come to a stop, basically.
Yep. And I don't think we had specifically, but I know personally through the office here that we've had people that were ready to launch, have inventory, the whole thing, and haven't been able to even open for their first day of trade. Quick question here. My accountant has info for cost of goods, and I don't have my 2019 tax back. Can the grant or the loans that ask for 2019 cost of goods, can they use 2018?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of people are going to 2018 for that. Of course, on the same token, you can also show, if you got the paper ready for your accountant, you can just as easily show that documentation to the bank. It's whatever's easy. But if you have 18, sure, you can use 18. A lot of people are using 18. I should have mentioned that too. Let me back up for 1 second to the EIDL loan. So you don't have any. You fill out the application online. There's not a whole lot to submit other than that. But when they get to your loan, it's going to be an SBA loan officer that reviews your documentation and calls you. At that point, if you decide, they may ask for a schedule of liabilities, a personal financial statement, and an IRS form 4506T. That's actually a tax transcript. They're not asking for the last couple of years of tax returns. This just gives them the ability to review them if they want to. The other thing that I forgot to mention was, if you decide you apply for this EIDL loan, when the loan officer calls you, you can accept it. You can accept all of it, part of it, or you can decline it. That is not going to impact your advance. If you already got the advance is going to be forgiven. You keep the advance and you wouldn't take the loan. That's okay. Just remember that the advance is going to be deducted from the PPP loan. That's why there's no harm, no foul there.
And just to be clear, so the advance is also processed through that SBA web address? Or is
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That is correct.
Very good. Okay. After applying and getting confirmation that my application for EIDL was submitted, how long will it take before someone reaches out regarding the loan process? They submitted on March 24, but haven't heard anything back.
I wish I could answer that. That has been a very common question. There is no way for us to check the status of that. They actually, so they applied early. Whoever this was applied very early, and that's fantastic because that was extremely difficult to do. I don't have a timeline. We'll reach out and see if they're kind of giving us an idea on that. I can tell you that funds have been distributed to some. I can tell you that on Sunday, they had a call and we were told that this week, so Monday, they were processing the applications from the week before. So that, if that gives you any indication, it doesn't tell you when you're going to get funds disbursement, but it gives you some type of idea on where they're at in the process.
Right. Do people who applied before March 29 need to reapply for the loan processing regardless of the advance?
If they don't have a confirmation number, they should. We've been told we should tell them yes.
Okay.
In fact, they should have gotten an email or some type of notification to tell them that they should reapply to make sure they're in the queue and get that confirmation number.
So documentation is the key. If you don't have documentation or a confirmation number, notification.
Correct.
Right. When will the PPP actually get paid?
As far as when your loan is dispersed?
I believe so.
So your loan, they're telling us that once your application is processed by the lending institution, that right now they're saying 10 days. But that's the one that I told you that they had told us 5 days, then 5 business days, now 10 days. So right now, the party line is 10 days.
Right. For the PPP program, if you're an LLC, but owners do not take a salary rather than net income, can the owner's income be included in the payroll costs for the PPP loan?
That's something that we would have, that should be coming out anytime. I don't have an answer for that. We'd have to get, let's write that one down.
Right. Are there restrictions on US businesses with foreign ownership? My bank says yes, but I can't find it in the SBA SOP 5010. The application requests a TIN or tax identification number for owners.
Correct. So read that one more time to me, please.
Are there questions on are there restrictions on US businesses with foreign ownership? My bank says yes, but I can't find it in an SBA standard operating procedure 5010. The application requests TIN for owners or a tax identification number.
So are the owners residents?
It doesn't.
They're foreign owners, but are they considered U.S. residents?
Yeah, I think if they are U.S. residents, then they would fall into the category of the first question we asked.
Correct. They U.S. residents are absolutely eligible.
Right.
If they're not U.S. residents and foreign owners, we got to get a clarification on that.
How many times can you apply, and how many different banks?
We would recommend. No one has asked that question. I will
Trust an ice cream person to ask that
hey,
question.
I like it. So the deal is you're only going to get processed one time. I can check on that, but my gut feeling is you might be doing yourself a disservice, because if they start seeing multiple, EIN numbers in there of the same business, they might be start to question what's going on. So I'd just be careful of that.
Right. Jump in.
What I think you might want to do is talk to your bank and see how quick they're going to be able to process you. So let's talk about that for a short minute. So I've heard different things from different people on this, where you have to be an SBA lender. There are all kinds of lenders that were never SBA lenders before, or haven't done an SBA loan in a very long time. I talked to a lady who literally told me they have not done an SBA loan in 30 years. And she's been there like 35, so she knew this. Yet her number was still in our system. It just had to be reactivated. And that's where we got into a real big backlog, because the system locked up trying to reactivate all these people. But my point is, just because not all lenders are an SBA lender, but there's a whole lot more than there ever were, because all these people are joining up. So the best thing that they're recommending to us is they've created this location on our website that I will give you, that you can plug in your zip code, and that would give you the SBA lenders in your area that you could call. However, some lenders are not taking on new people. They're only dealing with people that they currently have a business relationship with. So don't be surprised if you call one and you don't have an account with them and they say that they won't help you. You need to just call a different lender. But that location is sba.gov/paycheck protection, all together, /find, FIND. And then you can plug in your zip code, and it will tell you the different lenders in your area that you can contact. But my recommendation to that person would be, rather than submitting a bunch of applications, call and find out how busy your lender is and see how quick they can get you in. That's what I would do.
And we'll put all of these links in the NICRA page, under the COVID-19 page. Currently closed. If I reopen and bring back only half of my employees, do I still qualify for forgiveness?
So I'll ask that question. I know you have to use 75% or greater of your loan for payroll. So let me check on that for you. But yeah, let me check on that for you. That'd be the better answer. Just let me check on that for you. I do know it's 75% of your loan has to be used for payroll. And that's an interesting caveat too, that I learned this morning. Your loan has to be used, the payroll has to be used for 8 weeks from the date of the loan origination. So if you hire people back, today is April 9th. If today is the day you got your loan, you would need to bring back your employees and pay them for it's for 8 weeks from the date of the loan origination.
So you can't get the loan and then decide in 9 weeks to bring them all back and start paying then.
Correct. It's 8 week period starting the date the lender makes the first disbursement to the borrower.
Okay, a couple of other questions on timing and some on just follow-up. How can I check the status of my EIDL application? I can't find a login on the SBA page. And Mark Lawrence, the great Mark Lawrence, asked the same question. Is there a website to go to check on the status of an application?
Yeah, I honestly wish there was. There's not. They, you don't know how many times I've been asked that question, and I feel terrible that I can't give you an answer, because that's the one thing that everybody wants to know. When is it coming? When is it coming?
Mm-hmm.
And I totally sympathize with that, but they took that off our web page that we originally had, and it's because it was so overwhelming that it was crashing the system, because so many people were hanging on there checking on it. So I will ask again. I'll ask that question again, how to check the status. I don't know that I am going to get a good answer. I do have I got a website, I got a phone number and an email address that I am more than happy to provide. And this is actually to the disaster loan group. I'm told two things. I'm told that there's generally pretty long wait times on the phone, and I don't have a timeline on when they would get back to you on an email either, but I am happy to give you both of those. And it's 1-800-659-2955. And the customer service email address is disaster customer service, all together, disaster customer service @sba.gov. They may or may not be able to answer that question. My experience from hearing from people is it's not the best, but feel free to call that. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask the same question and see if we can get a better answer.
And all of these details we'll put on the NICRA COVID page too. What if our payroll has fallen due to people not wanting to work? I thought as long as we rebounded with pay once we are back to normal, we are following the rules.
So you're calling people back to work and they don't want to come back to work? Is that?
That's right. And we do have a lot of members of the association who have decreased payroll just because of volume of sales, but sometimes it's been forced on them because parents don't want kids to come and work. So not too sure. What if our payroll has fallen due to people not wanting to work? I thought as long as we rebounded with pay once we are back to normal, we are following the rules. I guess that falls within the time frame as to when you're bringing those people back on.
No, that's I'll give the Ice Cream Association another kudos for an interesting question. I'll have to ask that question and see what I can find for you. I do think it's going to be still kind of in the same ballpark of you're still going to have to use 75% or better to pay payroll, but maybe the answer is to, you got to call people and see what that number is going to be before you take the entire loan. No one says you have to take all the money that's offered to you.
Yeah.
By the time you apply, figure in 2 weeks you can open back up. If you call your employees and find out that 80% of them are coming back and 20 aren't, when you get to the bank for the loan amount, reduce it by 20% of your payroll.
Right.
But I don't know. So let me ask that question and see what we get.
A question here that I think's been covered. Completed the SBA application on the EIDL. At the end of the application, I received a notice that the application was successfully completed, but have not received any mail confirmation from SBA. And you mentioned that you do need to get that confirmation number, correct?
So you need a confirmation number. I've heard all kinds of people have told me they haven't gotten a confirmation email. Let me verify that. Yeah, let me just confirm that. I'll send a note out to you that it'll either say, yes, you're absolutely fine, don't worry about getting an email, or no, we got to do something different and make sure we get an email. But I'll ask that question.
And I'm midway through this, Tom. Hats off to you. This stream of information and questions are coming to you. Again, we appreciate you being here, even though you don't have the answers to everything. It's just such a
no worries. We're happy to do it.
Okay, so we are on a partnership. So we are a partnership on a draw. Are we eligible to apply for the loan using our Schedule K1? So a similar question from Kim to somebody else's so far as not drawing a salary, but just drawing when they need it.
That is a question that we have asked that we got to get an answer to for you. I don't have, they have not given us guidance on that yet.
Okay. What if a person, a senior executive, agreed to defer salary while the company was raising capital? Is there any chance that that can be covered?
Same deal. I need to ask that one. I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh, that's good. And I'll forward you all of these.
That would be great.
All
Thank
of these
you.
questions. Will the loan or grant payment come from the SBA or from the bank?
So the EIDL loan and EIDL loan advance will come from the SBA. The PPP loan will come from the bank.
Right. A question from Mitch out of California in the hotbed out there. I hope you're doing well, Mitch. Didn't answer the EIDL time frame, only the PPP loan if the loan was applied for the first day like we did on 3/20. So we spoke a little bit about time frames for the PPP loan. Time frame on the EIDL?
So I don't have a specific timeline for that. I've heard 3 to 4 weeks. But then again, I've also heard that people got funds disbursement, no one local that I know of, in a shorter period of time when this first started. So I don't have a good answer for that. We've been told, like, say, 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. And again, if you've posted a question here, we've glossed over it. It's not because I'm not reading them all, but they do. We have a lot of very similar questions. Chino from Slices Concession. Nice to have you on, mate. We have a contracted employee, a 1099. Do we as a business file a PPP loan, or does our contracted employee have to apply for that directly?
Contract employees, 1099 employees should be doing their own.
Okay. Very good. I applied for the EIDL on 3rd of April. Didn't get the question about the 10K advance. Is there a way to check on the status? They have the application number. No mention about the 10K advance or up to 10K advance.
If they didn't get that, they should reapply.
Okay. What else have we got here? We just bought our shop. We're operating for 7 weeks before closing. We have no loan as we paid cash for the business. Will any of these programs help us?
So read that again.
So basically, they've just opened up. They're only open for a very short amount of time, and they've closed as a result of COVID. They don't have any outstanding debt. It sounds like they paid for their business with cash. So if you don't have any debt, you can still apply. It's just a matter of proving.
So that's a tough one. I'm reading one of our frequently asked questions here, and that one sounds in the same ballpark. It's so change of ownership is, I assume, what this would be. And change of ownership is considered new business. And they're telling me that as of this time, you can't use employee payroll from the previous owner. So that does not sound like a good answer for them, but let's ask the question and get a more formal answer anyway.
Yep. Mike Shafino, nice to have you on board, Mike. On the EIDL, there weren't too many financial questions aside from gross income and cost of goods. How do they decide the advance amount?
One more time.
So-
EIDL loan.
Correct. Yeah. So there weren't too many questions, as you mentioned before. It's almost like an honor system, if you will. How does the SBA decide the amount of the advance up to that $10,000? What factors go into determining a higher or lower amount up to $10,000?
So I've heard a couple different I've heard a couple different answers to that. That's one of those things that I believe are changing, but let's see if I'm looking for that on here. So it looks like they're changing this to say, it says amount could be, notice the word could be dependent upon the number of employees. And we're all awaiting confirmation from headquarters on this. So that's the best answer we got for that.
Okay. Do small business owners apply for both the EIDL and PPP through the SBA website? Sounded like you mentioned before that the EIDL and the advance go through the SBA website, but the PPP is processed through the bank, correct?
That is correct, but you will need the SBA form 2483, and you can get that on our website. It's just an application form that you're going to be given to the bank. And I think that if I could go back 1 second, I think that with the EIDL question on the advance, was there something else asking about how like the loan was determined?
Yeah, it was basically how the amount up to the $10,000 was determined.
Okay, so there's two pieces to that. I told you about the 10K part. There is no place on that application to fill out like how much you're looking for in that. The loan officer is going to look at your information and determine how much of a loan they would give you.
Okay. And that's at the SBA loan officer, or are we talking about the bank?
That's the SBA loan officer for EIDL only.
Right. Steve Rapucci, nice to have you on board, mate. If I haven't applied for an EIDL loan yet, is it worth applying or just apply for PPP?
So that's going to depend. It's the main thing that you would need to decide is you obviously can't use them for the same thing, but if you have, for example, you bought a lot of product or equipment, whatever, that you owe, that you got to pay for now, you can't refinance a loan, but let's just say you paid for this or ice cream product, all your mix and all that for the product that you got to pay for. You could possibly use the EIDL loan for that to kind of get you through that because you can't write that off on PPP. So if you can find a purpose for the EIDL loan that might benefit you at 3.75%, great. If you can't, then PPP seems like the way to go. But there's no reason you can't do both.
Is there, and it brings up a point too that I've had people ask about. It seems as though there may be a first in, best dressed principle, and that may just be a perception that you gave us some dates as to when these applications need to be in by. Is there a chance of money running out? Is there a process of someone saying, well, I feel as I'm behind the 8 ball here, I won't even apply? Would you encourage everyone to apply regardless of where we're at in the funding process?
Personally, I would. There's been no guidance to suggest that they would run out of money and not take care of people. Now that, you know, they could cut this off whenever they want. That's out of my hands, but they've been telling us and encouraging everybody to definitely apply. You know, if you need assistance, you should apply.
Right. Let me jump over to the chat here. Dave Powell at Skipper Dipper, nice to have you on board. If you use 75% of the PPP loan on payroll, is the entire loan forgiven or just the 75%?
They're going to give you 250% of 1 month's payroll. So 2.5 times 1 month's payroll. And with the intent that you're going to use, and I think I'll read it to you again. The PPP loan forgiveness 8-week period, so 2 months, starting the date the lender makes the first disbursement to the borrower. So that says that you're going to use that much on payroll. You have more money. The other amount of the money of what is forgivable, the things that they have said are forgivable, is mortgage, rent, and utilities for said business.
Right.
So as long as you use it for the criteria that they're listing, those things should be forgiven. And that's why it says up to 100%, as long as you're using it under those circumstances. If you use it for something different, then you would have to pay it back at the 1% interest rate in 2 years or less, and you have a 6-month deferral period.
Right. And Dave also asked, in the same vein, if the PPP can be applied up till the 30th of June, would it make sense to apply later if you're in a state where there is a stay-at-home order, Skipper Dippers in New Jersey, or is there a bigger chance of that funding to run out first?
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, we're in a stay-at-home order ourselves here in St. Louis, so I mean, I understand what you're saying. Lord, I can only hope that we're going to be back to some type of normal here before that comes up, but nobody really knows.
Right. A question from Nathan. We haven't opened a shop yet and have no existing loan at this time because we are being delayed on finalizing a location and doing construction with the shelter in place. Is there any loan to help us in this situation with a new loan, or are the loans primarily just for relief for existing loan businesses? So can someone can still apply for a general SBA loan in the craziness?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend going and talking to your lender. I don't know that they'll have time for much anything besides the disaster relief at the moment, but there's certainly SBA loans that can assist you with what you're doing. I mean, the SBA 7A loan is what this disaster loan pretense is based on, but they're just using that mechanism. Normally, the SBA 7A loan is a very common business loan for exactly what you're talking about. But you can talk, so yeah, go talk to your lender about that, and they can do a 7A loan. You might be a candidate for a 504 loan, and there's different things that are different pieces to those that are for one thing or another, but they're a great opportunity.
Right. Another question from Dave. Are there prepayment penalties for EIDL loans? Do you have to pay it back over the 30 years?
No, there's no prepayment penalty.
Okay. Very good. Okay, jumping over to the questions again. Mark Dorsey from Prairie Farms. Nice to have a couple of suppliers on. What about multiple locations with the same principal yet different corporate entities? Different applications for different locations with different business names?
So there are, let me see here. Yeah, I believe yes is the answer to your question. Depending on how they fit with affiliation standards, and franchises, they may or may not be qualified for one encompassing or each individual unit. That you very well could be, you got to look at that. We got to take a look closer at that on your specific business. But it's possible that they might be able to be separated for each individual thing. I'm looking to see if I can, trying to see if I got anything at my fingertips here on that. But if you want to write that one down, and we'll get a good answer for that. But I'm pretty sure that it's going to depend on how they're set up. Right. It's possible.
Jim asks, what do you do if you feel your bank is dropping the ball?
Well,
on the VP side,
that's a good question. No one has asked that either. I'll tell you, me personally, I would consider looking at a different bank, talk to them, but they could very well just be overwhelmed with the amount of applications they're getting. I would ask them first if they're not going to get to you, ask to, consider going to a different bank. Yeah. But that very well could be the problem, is that they're just overwhelmed with the number of applications.
Yeah. Ken asked, we applied for a EIDL loan and got a confirmation number on 3/28. On 4/5, we got an update on the SBA website saying to reapply. We did reapply and got a new confirmation number. How do we follow up on the new confirmation number? Because we only have a link to follow up on the old confirmation number. That might be a phone call or an email.
That's going to be the same deal there that I said before. I have not been told any way that we can follow up on those, but I already got a note that I'll check and see.
Okay, sounds good. John Plummer from Moomers up there in the great state of Michigan. Can the loan start date be deferred for 3 weeks and have the start date actually be when you are available to open and need employees?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's find out. Can the loan date be deferred?
I like to think that the ice cream business owners of the world are stumping the SBA, but there's so much new information.
Like I say, it changes all the time, but right. That kind of makes sense, up in Michigan, because it's colder up there than it is here. So I could see that needing to wait. So sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of questions here about the whole 8 weeks following disbursement. But again, a lot of stores are bringing people back in May and June. So it kind of goes to Dave's question.
That makes sense. That's a real good question. We'll check that out.
Sandy Madison, I'm wondering if they intended to ask, would they be out of compliance if they asked for PPP based on normal headcount versus reduced headcount, even though not everyone has returned to work? So what are you basing your PPP on? Is it what you regularly would have, or what your situation is right now?
That's something that we would, I think we had a previous question similar to that, right, that we got to get clarification on, because some people don't want to come back to work right now, like you were saying. Right. Others, so yeah, it's kind of in the same category. Let's get a clarification on that.
No problem. Evan asked again from Slices, you only get the confirmation number from the EIDL, correct? The PPP is through your bank and they will handle that confirmation process.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so just thank you very much for asking my question. I just want to be clear, the company is operating and is selling, but the executive agreed to defer salary while additional necessary capital was raised. If money was used to pay the executive, it would have diverted funds needed for the company to survive. So I do think we went over that, and you were going to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I need to check into that one.
Okay. Tim Weiss, if I'm more concerned about paying rent and utilities rather than payroll expenses, since most of my staff is high school or part-time, is there a better option than the PPP loan? So if he's got expenses that would cover more than the 25, more
Right.
than the 25%.
Right. Or I should say whatever the 50%
Right.
of payroll is. Yeah. I don't know of anything. The two programs that are available for debt for the relief is the EIDL loan and the PPP loan. And then, like I said, for anybody that had an existing 7A loan, the debt relief is going to kick in and you get 6 months paid by SBA on that. Those are the three things that I know of that are available.
Right. Matthew, if we did the original long form for the EIDL and spent approximately 3 hours on forms, tax returns, is that info gone, or will it carry over with the streamline process? In other words, will the streamline system find that old information?
So as long as you got your confirmation on it, it's still there.
Right.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I mean, they were just, I think nobody had any idea how overwhelming that was going to be. And they actually did increase bandwidth to try and make that better, but they just got body slammed. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I'd
all
imagine.
there was to it.
The 1099 sole proprietors, self-employed that do not have employees that start applying for PPP tomorrow for their personal loss of income, is this also forgiven?
They're says right here, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors are all eligible to put in for that.
Okay. Dave Kozlov, nice to have you here, Dave. Sorry, I had to switch phones, missed the answer. I applied for the EIDL in advance on 3/31. Have a confirmation number, have not received funds. Can I follow using the confirmation number? Do I have? If so, please redirect me where. We will, there was a phone number and an email address that we'll publish on the NICRA website.
And I'll ask that question again too, to see if we can get a better answer.
Right. Mark Lawrence again, being a seasonal business, the state minimum wage went up 75 cents. So how can employees stay at home at same pay rate as it says in the loan application? Seasonal business, state minimum wage went up 75 cents. So how can employees stay at the same pay rate as it says in the loan application? So
if I'm hearing that right, the question is, so when everybody left and went back to school or whatever,
right,
when they closed, it was hypothetically $10 an hour. And now when they reopen, they're going to open at $10.75.
right.
But would the loan account for the $10.75 or the 10?
Yes.
Well, that's a good question. What's that? I don't know.
And then last point from Becky here. Yeah, Mark gets great joy out of knowing that he's stumped us. Becky says, can we contact you for specifics to our own situation or question? So
Absolutely.
Okay, so you may be opening up a
So I should say, by all means, you're more than welcome to contact me. And I'll give you my email address and phone number if you'd like. I should tell you that there are 68 district offices across the United States, to include Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, anything U.S. owned, Virgin Islands. Technically, they want you to go to your respective district offices. That has not happened. I've heard people that, some offices are more staffed than other offices, so some people are getting responses and some people aren't. We're here for you. if you want to email me, great. We'll do what we can. But you also might get good service. I hope you get good service wherever you're at. And you can certainly go to those district offices as well.
Okay, Ralph Parkman, would the PPP cover new employees' salaries or just previous employees? We have a number of employees who are afraid to come back, yet a lot of new people applying. Just confirming that the 75% of the loan is to be used for all labor and not just previous employees.
I'll confirm that. My understanding, they're going to look at what your payroll was for, a rolling average of your payroll for the last 12 months, or if, seasonal wise, you got to show that. But if you had 10 employees and, when you closed, and you're going to have 10 employees when you open, you got 10 employees. Right. But let's confirm that. I will, it's a good question. Let's double check it.
Yeah, and previously that can we contact you for specifics? That was Becky from Serendipity, the great Serendipity here in St. Louis. So she's local anyway. So you are here for local people, but certainly if our members or anyone on here is happy to help.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to turn anybody away. If there's a way for us to help you out, we want to do that. So
right. Look, again. There's a lot of information here. A lot of people have questions. And I think that, most of the questions that we're able to answer or Tom's able to answer have been answered. One of the questions came through as a general ice cream question is that, is it safe to open? Is it a good time to open? And that it really depends on where you are and what region that you're in. If you go to the NICRA website, just this week we posted a podcast from Foley's Ice Cream in Braintree, Massachusetts, who is selling more ice cream than she's ever sold in the middle of summer. Pints and take-home family packs and so forth. You talk to someone like Charlie out in Mary Ann's in California, who are in just the direst of situations because even the businesses that are open are almost being shamed not to stay open because of public health. So it's just such a hard question to answer. But we recently put out a collaboration video of many, many ice cream shops around the country showing solidarity and, saying, hey, ice cream's been with you through the good times and the tough times. And as an organization and as an industry, we'll strive to be there for many years to come. I think there are great resources in the NICRA organization for general ice cream questions. And again, would encourage everybody to take advantage of that free 3-month membership of NICRA. One of the comments came through that they had trouble getting on. We've since done a couple of test applications while the webinar's been going, and they've been going fine. So if you can't get on or you're having trouble registering for that 3-month, please call the NICRA office. That number's on the website, or contact us through the email. Again, NICRA.org for a resource, SBA.gov. We will list some of the specific web addresses that Tom had mentioned. And for specifics on food service industry, some great resources. Restaurant.org is the National Restaurant Association. The IDFA is the International Dairy Foods Association. CDC, look for that as a federal source for everything so far as COVID-19. And we did post a previous webinar from the good folks at Cornell University. This is a great website, the Institute for Food Safety.cornell.edu. And again, your local state health department, labor department are a great source for you as well. Again, thank you. We'll put the recording up once it's available, probably later today, on the NICRA website, nicra.org/COVID-19. And again, as Tom mentioned, we really want to be a resource for questions going ahead. So if you didn't get your question answered today, or if you have something that has come up since, you can always email us, info@nicra.org. Just put in the subject line SBA questions, and we will get them to Tom and hopefully get the answer to you, and try to continue to be a font of information going ahead for some of these issues. Again, wanted to thank you very much, Tom. It's great that you're based here in St. Louis. When things settle down and we can all get out again, I'll buy you an ice cream.
I'd love that. That sounds good. Hey, thanks for having us. And like I said, we're here to help. So if there's anything that we can answer or help you out with, please don't hesitate to ask. We want to help everybody out.
Will do. Thanks again. Thank you, everyone. And again, have a look at the NICRA website for the posting and all of the other bits and pieces that we've spoken about on the webinar. Thank you very much.